Are you there, Robert?
Yes, that's it recording.
Okay, great. Okay, brilliant. Well, welcome everyone to this webinar, and it's brilliant to have Rossie Stone from Dekko Comics, who is a long-term friend of Cool Scotland. And one of the brilliant things I have to say about Rossie is that he's always constantly reinventing things. So starting off with the comics, and they became fantastic, and you know the range of comics and the style is just great. And now, of course, we're now looking at some videos and how you can use videos for educational resources as well. And I believe lots of interactivity in the videos as well. So it's fantastic. So enough of me, and over to Rossie, who will talk for about 20 minutes, and then there'll be some opportunity for questions at the end. Okay, so thanks, Rossie. Over to you. Cheers.
Thanks so much, Craig. And I realized that after all that, I actually meant to start sharing screen after I did a quick face-to-face introduction. So is that okay? It's not going to disrupt the recording or anything, is it?
No, not at all, Rossie. That's great. Thanks.
Well, while I'm doing, just to show how completely prepared I am, I'm just going to reach up behind me and get a prop. So, hello everyone. My name is Rossie Stone. I'm the creator and founder of Dekko Comics Limited. And as Craig was saying, we started off just by making these wacky comic stories. They look very much like something from the Beano and Dandy, but they actually cover all the sort of subjects you would get for primary 5 to 7 or even S1, you know, or Key Stage 2 if you're in England. So, you know, they turn maths, English and science and all that into wacky comic stories. And the reasons we do that are for two reasons. One is that it's fun. And when pupils are enjoying themselves, even if they're not confident with something, their confidence goes up almost subconsciously. You know, like if a child picks up a computer game for the first time, they don't know how to play it, but if they're enjoying themselves, then they become naturally motivated and they'll become masters of that computer game by the end of it. The other thing is, the other big reason why we do Dekko Comics is that it's an example of how to communicate information using more than just words. And that is critical, particularly when you're trying to make forms of learning that are accessible to a wider audience, particularly as we have so much, you know, so many people being assessed for neurodiversity and so on. So there's a lot of people out there who might struggle with reading conventional text-based information. But they engage really well with visuals or through something kinetic like a sport or a dance routine, or they're very good with auditory learning and learning through hearing things as opposed to reading it, you know. So it's not that Dekko Comics is doing anything rocket science in terms of doing anything particularly new. It is just embracing the whole idea of learning through more than just words. And what I'm going to be, you know, I'm largely today I'm going to be sharing my screen and letting some videos that I've got for you do most of the talking. But essentially, we've been around since 2016 doing this stuff. We've grown from just making these comics to making, you know, to running workshops where I teach pupils how they can use these study skills, you know, how to use creative learning skills and creative study skills for themselves that are fun and use more than just words. And I've done this from, you know, young primary school all the way up to college level, you know, and it's expanded into us making comic resources and animations for other companies too, with an educational message. But the most recent thing we've done is we've turned it into a video resource, a digital resource that you can use anywhere in the world as long as you've got internet access. And this will basically allow you to learn the way I go about converting information in full detail and at your own pace, you know. So you'll learn all my crazy wacky cartooning techniques and but also ways of how to convert information, or how I go about converting information into rhyme, rap, puzzles, and you know, acronyms, anything that is stimulating and uses more than just the words themselves, that uses more than just relying on your reader's ability to process information through words alone. So I think I've said enough. I'm going to share my screen now and show you exactly what these videos are. They're called Dekko Video Courses, and we've made them for schools and we've made them for home use as well. And for the ones for schools, we piloted them on around 20 schools to make sure that they were an educational resource that could be used practically by teachers. And you're about to see a little glimpse of what they look like. So sharing screen again now. Craig, by all means, let me know if there's any issues. But this is our website, dekkocomics.com. Craig shared the website in the chat. You go to videos if you're wanting to find this yourself. There's a little video intro explaining what these are. All of our videos have subtitles on them that you can color code as well, and they're hosted on Vimeo, so auto resolution adjusting too. But yeah, let's go to Video Courses for Schools. We have an intro video here. I don't know if anyone here has seen them or not, but it's an intro video. Comes with a couple of activity sheets to do after as well, if you actually want to try this out in class. But I think the video does better justice of explaining what all this is about, why it's valuable, why anyone should even care, and also gives you some tangible examples of how to use the technique too. So without further ado, I'll play the video. Craig, let me know if there's any issue with the resolution or audio.
Will do. Okay, thanks.
What if a comic could help you with reading? What if a goofy cartoon picture could actually help you remember facts? What if creativity could help you understand a school subject more than a textbook ever could for you? In this video, I'm going to be telling you about the Dekko technique and how it might be able to help you with your schoolwork and your studying. So before we begin, can I just ask, have you ever found a school subject difficult before? Or, similar question, have you ever found a school subject boring? Have you ever struggled to read and understand something at the same time, like a textbook question, and is concentration in class sometimes hard for you? If you like, pause the video now and have a think about those questions before continuing. You see, I was someone who found most school subjects difficult, and often because I found them difficult, I would in turn find them painfully boring. Not art, drama, and creative writing, those things were fine and I could use my imagination. But maths, literacy, science, history, geography, and so on, those subjects I would find myself at the bottom of the class because they all had something in common. They were all academic subjects that came in the form of worksheets, textbooks, listening to the teacher, and copying notes off the board. In other words, you had to be good at absorbing information through words to be good at the subjects. I was someone who was not good at absorbing information through words. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could read and write, etc. But I would so often get to the end of a sentence and I would realize, I don't know what I've just read. I mean, I understand the words themselves, but the information hasn't gone into my brain yet. I could spend an hour trying to read 2 pages of a regular novel for my age and still not really know what was going on by the end of those pages. In class, I would constantly drift off into daydreams while trying to listen to the teacher, without meaning to, of course, but this kept on happening, regardless of which teacher it was. As you can imagine, when so much of school revolved around learning through words, I struggled a lot throughout my primary school years. I started to think that there was something wrong with me, or that I was a duff learner, or, worst of all, that I was stupid. But when I got into secondary school, at the age of 11, my parents took me to get assessed and see what was going on, and as it turns out, I had a form of dyslexia. To find out that I had been dyslexic this whole time was actually a huge relief, because it turned out that I wasn't stupid, as dyslexia, like neurodiversity in general, has absolutely nothing to do with intelligence. My dyslexia was just a difficulty when it came to processing information. For example, reading words was one thing, but processing and understanding information through them was another. Realizing this about myself wouldn't make schoolwork any easier for me, but thankfully, I had a supportive high school that gave me extra time in exams, taught me how to use mind maps, and also taught me how to use things like the highlighting technique for my study notes. All of this was appreciated, but none of it worked. My mind maps became a mess. My highlighted notes just ended up covering most of the text, and I still ran out of time in exams due to struggling to understand the questions properly. So despite all this additional support I was getting, I went through most of my secondary school years still at the bottom of my classes, still getting C's and D's and fails in most of my exams, and still being known as the stupid kid among my peers. Not exactly good for the self-esteem department in the brain. Eventually, in my last year of academic exams, at the age of 17, I decided I'd had enough. If I was going to fail anyway, I decided that I might as well enjoy it. If reading was the main issue, especially during exam revision, which was torturous, how could I make the reading part a bit more enjoyable to do at the very least? After having to think about it, I thought about comics. Comics had never been difficult for me to read. I could read them cover to cover. I could read them several times. I often read them for my own pleasure. You never had to ask me twice to pick up and read a comic. So I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I had one last academic exam to study for, and so rather than just reading the notes over and over again like before, I decided to turn them into comics. I put effort into the drawings, used color coding, and treated it as if it was a Saturday activity. I soon found that these were fun to make, but even more fun to read. I found that the notes were clicking together in my head and felt more natural than it had ever been before. I had a visual, story, and characters now to help me follow, remember, and contextualize the information with. Hey, I knew I was going to fail because no one had told me this was an okay thing to do, and I knew fine well that comics were not considered proper reading. But I didn't care, because for the first time ever, I was feeling good about myself while reading and revising, and I was genuinely having a good time. I had found a way to make exam revision fun. I had found some self-esteem for the way that my brain worked. Oh, and I actually ended up getting a grade A in that exam. This was the first grade A I'd ever gotten in a serious academic exam that wasn't to do with the arts in any way, and all I had done differently for this exam was I had presented the exam revision in a format that made better sense to me and spoke to my strengths. I had used pictures, stories, characters, imaginative stuff that I was always good at, things I liked and things I was skilled at. They had gone from being the distraction in class to being the solution. And the evidence was now right before my eyes in the form of my grades. So, years later, after graduating from art college, I eventually decided to make my revision technique into a resource that others could use for themselves too. This started in 2016 with Dekko Comics, which turned school curriculum subjects into comics like my revision technique did. But I also spent that time visiting schools and colleges to teach the technique itself to pupils and staff of all ages and learning types. And now, I am teaching it in more depth than ever through a video course format, like the one you're currently watching. And even though this is just an introductory video, I'm going to show you how you can start using this technique today to help you with your school studies in some very simple ways. But before I do that, I just want to ask you a question. Remember what I asked you back at the start of the video about which school subjects do you find difficult or boring? Well, now I want to ask you something else. What do you enjoy and find easy to get into? For you, that could be a sport, a skill, a hobby, a passion, a game, whatever it is that works for you. But pause the video now and have a think about it, maybe discuss it amongst your peers, and then return to the video for the next step. So what if you could turn something you do for fun into something that helps you with a difficult or boring task? For example, in my case, how can comics be helpful as a way to learn and remember?
Just going to say that that's usually where you would pause the video and discuss it with your class or discuss it with your peers if this was a PSD lesson, a CPD lesson, sorry. But obviously we're just going to keep continuing with the video. Also, I have to apologize if you might have heard a couple of coughs throughout the video. I should have warned you, I am actually recovering from a chest infection just now. So just to reassure you that that is not part of the video. Those coughs are coming live from me, from my lungs. So without further ado, on with the show.
Remember info from school subjects. Well, they're not for everyone, but they sure do help break wordy information down by their very nature, first into panels and then into speech bubbles. And they give you pictures as well as words to follow and remember it all by, as well as a story to thread it all together. However, for me, the key secret to my revision technique, what I call the Dekko technique, was actually turning it into entertainment. Making things fun makes it memorable, increases motivation, and helps me understand something through means that I am more confident in. And if thinking how to make it fun is hard for you, then just start by simply thinking, how can I learn this using more than just words? Not every example I teach in the Dekko technique involves drawing. However, drawing is a very flexible and creative tool to use for it. For example, let's say I had to learn my 5 times table. I could try and learn it from just a sheet of numbers, but I might struggle with that. So how can I make it fun? Well, first of all, I asked the question I asked you earlier. What do I enjoy and find easy enough? I know that I enjoy drawing cartoons and they're easy enough for me to do. So putting entertainment before education, maybe I'd start my 5 times table homework by simply drawing a cartoon face. There we go. A nice big long nose, wacky goofy eyes, buck teeth, and boom, little cartoon there. Now I have a picture that I like to look at because it reminds me of things that I like. But what if I wanted to learn the 5 times table every time I looked at and every time I remembered that picture? Maybe I could simply just write the answers inside them. That's right, a little 5 times tattoo. And now the picture is mainly a cartoon, but I can't help but take the 5 times table in whenever I look at it. Lots of ways I could have done this picture, but as long as the information is clear and the fun part still dominates overall, then it's an effective technique for people who learn well visually. I want to give you one more example. Maybe literacy was a subject you thought of when I asked you the question at the start of the video. Well, I'm going to make a short 3-box comic about verbs, and by the end of it, I will have made verbs easy and fun to remember and understand. Sounds like big words, right? No pun intended. But not only that, this comic is also going to just feature stick figures, so that you know that drawing skills are not required in order to do this for yourself. Anyone can draw a stick figure. It is all about the idea and what works well enough for you, and not the level of drawing ability. I cannot stress this point enough. So this verbs comic is going to feature a stick man with a top hat and a stick man with spiky hair. And the top hat guy is going to ask the spiky hair guy, "What's a verb?" Now, what should happen next? Ideas could include the spiky hair guy simply tells him what a verb is, or maybe he starts jumping up and down and saying, "This is a verb." There's really no right or wrong answer for that. But if you want this to make an impression on you so that it's memorable and to be so fun that you'd even read it on holiday, you probably want to make this comic interesting and meaningful for yourself. For me, that would involve injecting my sense of humor into it. And I apologize, I've got a very wacky, cartoony, slapstick sense of humor. So for me personally, I'd quite like it if the spiky hair guy, for no particular reason, just kind of, booted him into the air 20 feet. Stars flying around, and whilst doing this, he shouts, "Kicking!" Because kicking is a verb. It's a doing word. So he has shown him what a verb is. He's just given him a very, shall we say, physical example. Now, no need to fear, because nobody is ever really hurt in the cartoon world. Everyone's invincible. But if you're kicked 20 feet into the air, then you're probably going to be a little bit peeved at the very least. And Top Hat Guy is going to come running back off screen, absolutely furious. He's got steam coming out of his ears and all. And while he's chasing after Spiky Hair Guy, who's running away laughing because he's a cheeky wee rascal, he is going to be shouting after him, "You better run!" Because run, of course, is another doing word, another verb. And so with just 3 boxes, you can see how this comic would progress, with more funny Tom and Jerry antics between the two of them, showing examples of verbs and giving us context to remember them by. But already, with just 3 simple stick figure panels, I have given you several things other than words to learn what verbs are and remember verbs by. I've given you pictures, characters, story, humor, and memorable moments to remember them by. Maybe you enjoyed that little comic. If so, maybe you can try making your own. As an exercise to do after this video, I would like you to either make your own 5 times table picture, like I did, or make your own verbs, nouns, or adjectives stick figure comic, or choose your own piece of info and make it into whatever you like, as long as it's something that's fun or interesting to you. For example, you could turn your chemical formulas into a rap, or turn your spelling into a word search puzzle. Download the activity sheet underneath this video to see where the task takes you. Fundamentally, this exercise is about turning a piece of info into a format that is using more than just words, and how by making it more interesting for yourself, you're creating more ways to engage with it and remember it by. If you would like to learn more about the Dekko technique and how to apply it to specific and important subjects, then this video is only scratching the surface. I teach lots of creative ways to apply this technique to your schoolwork and studies, and the skills taught are designed to be flexible across several different year groups. If you're looking for a place to start, I recommend our Creative Study Skills course, as it's a natural follow-on from this introductory video, which is just giving you a taster. We also have video courses for teachers, as well as a course about confidence with neurodiversity and more. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to the Dekko Video Courses. If you found this insightful, then I hope you'll look at some of the other Dekko Video Courses where we explore a lot more ways of how you can use this technique to help with schoolwork and studies. Thanks for watching.
So there you go. And yeah, I mean, you might have noticed that the resolution was going up and down throughout the video. That is our auto resolution adjustment at work there. And that's a good thing, because even if you're in an area, or if your school's in an area with weak internet signal, then this server will do everything it can to still make sure that the video runs smoothly, even if it's got to get a little more pixelated. And the visuals that I use in the videos aren't so complicated that you absolutely need crisp pixelation in order to understand what they are. So, but yeah, that is the video, how the video courses work in a nutshell. That's just an intro video, and obviously it comes with activity sheets for you to do afterwards, should you wish to. But on this page, which is free to the public to access, you'll see all 4 of the video courses for schools we have. We've obviously got the creative learning skills one, which is basically more of what you saw there in the intro video. But we also teach how to apply this technique when exploring the best way of learning that works for you, and confidence in school, particularly if you're a neurodiverse pupil. So fun drawing or not drawing exercises as well that help explore that. That's had very good feedback from schools. We show how to use this technique to learn rules of punctuation and grammar. And we also have a CPD course for staff, which shows, it's all about how to use this technique in ways that require little to no drawing at all, so that you can still encourage pupils to use these techniques. Because all these techniques are, what I dub the Dekko technique is, it's basically a way to embrace what is often, at least traditionally, seen as a distraction, doodling and cartooning, making comics or playing around or whatever. Is how to utilize that as a distraction and turn it into the solution, using entertainment as a way to communicate information and learn and make information memorable. And that can be absolutely essential, particularly when you get to the stage of your first serious exam in high school and you're suddenly expected to revise. And most pupils may not know how to revise. They'll go to the nearest mind map technique, which may or may not work for them. But if you give them, particularly at the age of late primary school and early secondary school, some lessons on how to actually find ways of absorbing information and learning information that work for you, not only can it really give them some great technical skills in order to revise well when the time comes when they need it, but it can also boost their confidence at a critical stage. And confidence can be a big kicker, particularly if you have something like dyslexia or ADHD. Take it from my own experience. But there's a free video of each of the 4, 5, or 6 video courses that we offer that you can view for free. And if you're a school or an institution, if you do eventually want to subscribe, then you just get in touch with us and we sort you out with a login for the whole school to use. But once you are subscribed, you can access the page this way. And this is an example of what the access page would look like. All 4 of our courses laid out for you, described. It comes with curriculum overviews and curriculum guides for each video, so that you know exactly how to apply these. And we have the FAQs as well, and how each video is tying into the curriculum. We've had a curriculum expert review and provide us material for this as well, just to make sure we're doing everything right. And that it's an actual teacher resource. But here's an example of clicking on video 1 of the Creative Learning Skills course. It comes with a national curriculum guide, a Scottish curriculum guide, and of course activity sheets as well in JPEG and PDF form. It also comes, each course, like I say, each video itself lasts between 10 to 20 minutes in length, and comes with interactive pause breaks. And we show in the tips and guides that you can do these in a linear way or in a non-linear way. You can do half a video one day and finish the other half later. It's entirely made to be flexible around whatever way of teaching works for you. But we also do provide with each course before and after questionnaires, so that you can test the evidencing and use these as case studies. Ask your pupils how confident they are, how capable they are in the areas that this course covers, and then ask them the same questions after. All these sheets can be printed off at your leisure, and allow you to basically mark how effective these courses have been. And like I say, we've had very good feedback, but it really is up to you and what you're looking for, and whether you see creative learning skills as an important thing for the entire school, or just for your ASN pupils, or etc. One last thing before I open to Q&A, just by the by, we do also have video courses for home. It's basically the same video material, but cut down into shorter, sharper videos. So we have these things called Dekko Shorts that teach you fun techniques on how to learn apostrophes, how to learn adjectives, commas, and so on. But We also have a 10 video course of videos that are more like 4 to 5 minutes each, but still cover the basics of how to learn with comics, how to learn with games, how to learn using rhyme and rhythm for memory, and so on. And if you subscribe to it as a parent or an individual or as a tutor, you also get access to all 140 of our Dekko reader comics. I think I've got access to this, so I should be able to go straight there. Yeah, and that just gives you access to all of our comics that we've made, all 144, I think the total is, certainly for school curriculum subjects, and you can navigate them by school topics. So yes, I know we all prefer a printed copy that we can hold in our hands, but this can be very useful if you're wanting, for example, to go straight to the 8 times table comic. It'll take you straight to the 8 times table comic and so on. But I think I've shown enough. I'm handing back over to you, Craig, and if anyone has any questions about me, about Dekko Comics, about the Dekko video courses for schools or for home, please do ask away, and I'll pop my email in the chat as well if you have a question later.
Thanks, Rossie. That was excellent. I love the Dekko technique. You should get that trademarked, or is it already trademarked?
I couldn't possibly say, but we are still to get it trademarked. But yeah. we've got Dekko trademarked, so we just
it's exactly the sort of thing that would have helped me when I was a kid. I think that would have been brilliant. So yeah, if you do have a question for Rossie, please click raise your hand, or stick your mic on, or pop something in the chat if there's anything. You're just showing towards the end. Can you print those off? You're saying they're digital lines. Do you have, could a teacher or someone at home print them off as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Both for the home use and the school ones, both come with activity sheets, and absolutely they can be printed off, downloaded and printed off to as many pupils as you need. They don't have to be printed in color. And so can the curriculum guides, and the curriculum guides come with extra activity suggestions as well from the curriculum expert. So yeah.
Jocelyn's saying that she really loves it. I just actually, out of interest, I wonder if anyone who's attending today has actually used the Dekko comics, the Dekko videos already. Angela, hello Angela, fantastic. Some very visual learners who would love this. Yeah. Kirstine, engaging resource for many learners. It's all true, very true. Yeah, it'd be good to know if there's anyone here who's actually used it, used Dekko Comics or engaged with any of the fantastic stuff. I've often see Rossie at dyslexia conferences, and it really brightens up some of the products that you have there.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Craig, and thank you for the lovely comments, people in the chat. I mean, if you are not a school per se, but you are maybe a support association or institution, we do offer licenses. I mean, basically the video courses for schools work as a license. So basically the whole school would get access to them for a whole year. And that's how it would work. But it's the same, even if you're like more of an organization that goes to different schools to help out. We do mobile licenses as well. And I'd love to even just hear from anyone, if you do have any, not even questions, but anything you'd like to share, just on where you think the importance of creative learning skills is in your school, or do you think that learning creative learning skills more could be very helpful, could actually lead to a tangible difference in your school, or is it something that is just very hard to get across the line in school when it comes to funding and so on? Just anything you'd like to share on that, and I'd be very happy to give my 2 cents on it too.
I think I'll grow a 5 times table moustache. So, so I love it. Well, thank you, and just to let everyone know this will be archived. My colleague Robert will archive it, and you'll be getting a link. If you've registered today, you'll get a link from Robert to see the archive as well, and it'll also be on the Deco YouTube channel. So thank you, Rossie. That was brilliant. Thanks very much. Thank you, and thanks to everyone for attending and for your lovely comments as well. Okay, I'll just close up now. Karen.